What is up, everybody? Mike Roberts coming to you live from Salt Lake City, Utah. And in this session, I'm going to talk to you about school culture. School culture is one of those things that a lot of us talk about. And to me, it's like a good stew. Sometimes you're making stew and you just put in some ingredients and you just taste it and it just works. But other times you put in some ingredients just randomly and you taste it and it just doesn't work. The basics are all there. It's those little extra things that you throw in that either make it or break it. And that's the way I view school culture. It's the little things that teachers and administrators and students do on the daily basis that is going to impact whether the school is flowing or whether the school is struggling a little bit. So I am going to share my screen with you here, and we are going to run through 6 strategies to help you improve your school culture. All right, so number 1, here is the big fancy definition of school culture. I mean, it's beliefs, it's perceptions, it's relationships, it's attitudes, it's written and unwritten stuff. It's both conscious and unconscious. It's about students and parents and teachers and administrators, and it's all working together to hopefully produce this great product. There's a lot of stuff going on right there. Okay, that's the big fancy definition of school culture. What is school culture? The simple definition, to me, it's the vibe that your school puts out. And I got some emojis up here, to try to show you all the different vibes that schools sometimes put out. And it's that feeling you get when you walk into the room or that the building, or when you see the students in the hallway, or you see teachers and parents talking and other kids engaging with the administration. And it's all of that. It's not one thing that you really put your finger on. It's kind of, like I said, it's a stew. It's all the different ingredients working together to create a really positive, hopefully, school culture. Now, Matthew McConaughey, he had a quote where he said, "Defining ourselves by what we are not is the first step that leads us to really knowing who we are." And in school culture, I think a lot of times we like to think, well, this is what our school does that makes or break the culture. And to me, school culture is about individuals doing these things together, and not meaning we're all doing the exact same thing at the same time. It's we're all working towards that same common goal, and we're all in it to win it, but we all may do it in a different way, with the intent being that we're going to improve the situation. And I really like this quote by Matthew McConaughey, because when you think about school culture, it's, well, what should we be? And what he says here, and I think this applies to teaching in general, well, what don't you want to be? What don't you want your class or your school or your environment to be like? And once you start eliminating what you don't want, what you do want kind of starts emerging. And so I want you, as we go through this, I start with a quote and I end with a quote. And this is the quote we're starting with. Think about, as you're starting to piece this together, think about how, okay, well, what is it currently? Well, what can we remove from that's not fitting? And that's what I'm going to encourage you all to do, rather than trying to, brainstorm all these ideas of perfect school. Well, what disrupts the stew, if we're going back to our analogy? What are some things that are in there where you're like, ooh, let's take this out, just in case that's what's causing the nasty taste in our mouth. So, whoops, what just happened there? So here are some tips for you. Number 1, celebrate the good. And again, these are things that you as an individual can do. Celebrate the good. Pay attention to the positive stuff that happens every day. This includes, the lunch people who are here in the morning getting things set up. This includes, the custodians out sweeping the halls. This includes the students and all the cool stuff they're doing. This includes your admin and all the ways they're trying to improve the school. This includes the individual things you are doing in your classroom. Cool stuff is happening every single day, but sometimes we get too bogged down with the daily grind to notice it. And so the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to celebrate the good. And how you do this, I'm going to ask you to set a goal of 5, give 5 compliments per day. And these don't have to be big things. These can be just these little things that you're noticing, and you're thanking your students at the end of a class, and you're thanking your principal for, doing something for the school, and you're thanking the lunch lady for, getting lunch set up. You're thanking the custodian for coming in and vacuuming your room. Can you imagine if every single person in your school got in the routine of giving 5 compliments a day to each other? And 5 is not hard to do. You just have to be aware of it and pick those moments, those little good things that you see that a lot of times we just brush aside and we don't really pay attention to. If we start paying attention to that and everybody is building towards, let's build each other up, I think celebrating the good really will benefit the school culture. Number two, make school fun. Man, I remember as a kid going to school, grinding it out, and then you'd have those little moments. You'd have that little party in class, or your friend would do something silly. Those are the things that help kind of establish and build a positive classroom and school culture. So implementing small doses of those throughout the school year helps keep morale high. And this is for both teachers, students, and staff as well. So things like, spirit days or a little lunch karaoke, you could bust out some Kahoot, you could go to plays and sporting events. You could have student council put up weekly videos. You could do a student of the week or a teacher of the month. You can celebrate birthdays. Just these little things to recognize what is happening and show people that you appreciate them in a way that is fun and engaging. Because again, in today's environment with school, we get so bogged down with the grading policies and are we online and what does that mean? And we got this new rule and we got that new rule. And too often it really does weigh us down from the fun that is all around us. We are in a building with kids, and whether they're 5 years old or 18 years old, kids are funny. Kids have that energy that a lot of times adults lack. And too often we try to suck the life out of it. Man, lean into that. Lean into it and enjoy it. And I encourage you to try 2 a month. And again, if you're a teacher out there, if you could do 2 per month, think if every teacher in your school did 2 per month. Suddenly, kids would be excited about coming to school because they're walking in, and odds are, after a day or two, somebody's going to be celebrating something, or there's going to be some kind of fun activity going on within the school. And if kids are pumped to be there, hopefully the teachers are pumped to be there. And that's how you build up that school culture. Number 3, provide some choice. And this goes not only for your students, but hopefully if you're an admin, this goes for your faculty as well. One size does not fit all. It just doesn't. And so you want to make sure when you're giving out assignments and giving out tests and giving out projects that your students have choice. And again, this is going to be reflected in their attitude about coming to your class. I also would encourage admin out there to offer up some choice when it comes to things like professional development and things along those lines. To bring in that one person to talk to everybody usually doesn't really hit the needs of everybody. So give them some choices. I'm not saying you can't have that one speaker come on in and talk for an hour. I think that's great. But to have one speaker talk for an entire day, that can be a little rough. Or to have, one speaker talk every single PD, that can be rough. Look, let teachers lead professional development. Find out what interests they have and let them push that out and say, hey, I'm going to teach you all about this that has been working in my class. You have teachers within your school who are very successful in terms of technology. You have others who are very successful in terms of classroom management. You have others who are very successful in terms of building relationships. Let them play into their strengths. And that way teachers can pick and choose and say, oh, I'm going to go to this session and this session, rather than you have to go to this one thing. Just like with our students, the more buy-in you can give your students and your teachers, if you're admin again, the more likelihood that they're going to enjoy those and apply those things. So rather than having class be a drag or this professional development be something that, oh, I have to go to, there may be a little more excitement into attending these type of things, which will definitely help improve the school culture. Number 4, get your parents involved. Parents can either build it up or tear it down when it comes to the environment and the tone of the school. And allowing parents opportunities to become aware of what is happening within your school and inviting them to participate in some of these things creates a very positive environment that is reflected from both the parents and teachers. When you're working together, it's a whole lot easier to be productive than if you feel like you're butting heads with people. So how do you do this? You're sending emails home to parents. Okay, this can be about things you're doing in your class. This can be about things you're noticing from their child in class. But try to send and keep them in the loop as much as you possibly can. There's nothing worse than keeping parents in the dark. You want to make sure you are working together to make the school year successful, not you are holding all the cards and then every now and then you say, here's what I have. You want to make sure they are invited to the party. You also want to get feedback from them. Find out what is working and what isn't working for them. Ask them things like, talk about your grading policy, and do they have access, and do they have any questions about how to see the grades, and have a very open door policy with them about communication. And if there's ever anything they want to talk about, here's my email. And don't just do that at the beginning of the year. You want to keep that flow going throughout the course of the entire year, because that's how you build it. Is, yes, hopefully they do respond sometimes. And I'm not saying these are always going to be great conversations. I am saying by offering up those conversations, they are going to be appreciative, and hopefully, like I said, build that strong relationship between you and them, because it's a whole lot easier working with parents than it is working against parents. Number 5, establish and maintain school norms. So school norms should focus on building positive school values, and consistently maintaining these is essential to a positive classroom and school culture. And if you can implement some social and emotional learning into all this, I think that's a real easy starting point for the creation of positive norms. And again, when you are creating these, whether it's for your school or your classroom, try to really avoid having any that use the word no. Just rephrase it. It's looking at it with a different mindset, rather than saying, no cell phones. Okay. Say, I hope to have your focused attention this entire class period. Rather than saying, let me throw out another one here. How can I do that? Don't be late. Please be on time. You just got to rephrase things so it's not so negative. And once that becomes the norm of, I'm looking at the positive side of this and I'm framing this in a positive way that encourages participation rather than discourages it with those no's and those don'ts, I think it does. It's just kind of that mindset change. Number 6, our last one here, focus on the learning. Grades are a big thing in school. I get it. And it's kind of a kid's currency, like, ooh, this is how I oftentimes value myself. And I struggle with that a lot, because it's not about the grade, it's about the learning. And so please focus on the process that goes on rather than the product. And you should be praising that kid who worked really hard and got a C. And you shouldn't be saying, hey, you got a C, let's try, next time do this, this, and this. How about we focus on, hey, great job. Look at all these things you did well. I'm super excited about that. And yeah, we're going to build on it, but focus on that positive rather than tearing it down and saying, well, why you didn't get the A or the B is because you didn't do this, this, and this. Again, the more you can change the language, change the content, change the tone of what you're saying, the more I think the positive attitudes will come out from both yourself and your students. And again, these are all little things that you can do. Celebrate the growth that is going on rather than just, here's the number of A's we received. Really work on, how can I build up those baby steps, even if they're not quite to the level I want them to be. We're getting there, though. That's what you want to focus on, that process of, hey, school's about learning. School's not about the final grade. School is about learning. And really stress that with your students and tell them how proud you are for that effort. Tell them how proud you are for going from that 60% to that 72%, and how, man, that 12% growth is huge. And guess what? If we keep doing that, man, guess what's going to happen next time? Let's build on this momentum. Focus on the growth rather than the final product. All right. David Goggins is a former Navy SEAL, and he has this great quote that I really love. The only thing more contagious than a positive attitude is a negative one. And so that starts with you. And again, if you come every single day, and you're bringing that mojo, and you're bringing that positivity, and you're bringing that I can mentality versus the I can't or this won't work mentality, man, that stuff rubs off. And if you can be positive, and if every single person in your school can be positive, others are going to follow and build on that. The same thing though, if you're negative and you're dragging things down, others are going to follow that as well. So please, when you're going through and thinking about your school culture, too often we try to put it onto everybody else, when in reality, a lot of times it falls onto us individually. And if every single person did their own individual part, as a group, that school culture would grow and improve. So here is my contact information. If you want to reach me on my website, I'm thebaldenglishteacher.com. Twitter, I am at baldroberts. And email, you can email me at thebaldenglishteacher@gmail.com. All of these slides are available right down there. And the handout that I have, I give a little one-pager that is also available to you at that little link that I sent. Hey, school culture is tough, and especially nowadays. And I think too often we think it's this, here's this one size, the cure all, everything's going to be great type scenario. When in reality, it's woo, lights just went out on me, sorry. It is something where, to me, it's the salt in the stew. It's to add those carrots. It's taking out those peas. It's a work in progress where you're constantly playing around with it and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And I think if every single individual within your school did their part, that stew is going to come together and be great. And sometimes it only takes out one bad ingredient to really disrupt things. And what you don't want to be is the bad ingredient in the stew. So that, ladies and gentlemen, are some tips on how to improve your classroom and school culture. My name is Mike Roberts. If you have questions about any of that stuff, please let me know. If you try some of this stuff and it works, please let me know. And if you try some of this stuff and you're like, Roberts, that ain't happening, let me know, and let's see if we can figure something out for you. So don't hesitate to reach out to me with any questions or comments that you have. Teaching is the greatest job in the world, my friends. We are all doing our best, and as long as we just keep trying to do our best and keep trying to improve, even that little 1% per day improvement, it will lead to great things. So it has been my pleasure speaking to you all. Thank you for everything you're doing in your classroom, and keep fighting the good fight, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.